Hey, what's up, y'all? I'm Kelly and giving y'all the rundown on what happened last week in St. Louis City and county governments. Because if we already ready, we ain't got to get ready. And I plan to start it off, switch it up a little bit by starting off with the St. Louis County rundown. But the St. Louis County Council, they ain't meet last week. So this week, it's all about the city of St. Louis. So let's get into the city rundown. So, first highlight. Short-term rental, aka Airbnb regulation legislation, was discussed last week in the Transportation and Commerce Committee meeting. The most updated version of the legislation requires a permit for folks to operate a short-term rental. It requires a point of contact to respond to concerns regarding the operations of a short-term rental. And it provides an application and process for the appeal if a short-term rental is denied, as well as the process for canceling a permit. There's more, but those are just the high points. Y'all, this was not the first, not the second, not the third, but the fourth committee hearing for these bills. So that tells you how much of a hot topic this is. This meeting lasted damn near 3 hours. At least half of the meeting was for the public to provide their thoughts, and then the rest of the meeting was spent with the committee and some non committee members giving their 2 cents. What was the public saying? Well, it was similar to the past meetings. You basically got two different camps. So the first camp was the folks wanting to keep their neighborhood neighborly, right? And expressing a lot of concerns, including about how all of these Airbnbs make finding affordable housing in the city even harder, which that's real. Then you have the second camp. The second camp were the folks clearly running the Airbnbs, talking about how they shouldn't be penalized because of a few bad actor operators, and how hell they might even be run out of business because now they'll have to pay commercial taxes instead of the cheaper residential taxes. And I want to say these folks, they ain't against regulation, but they ain't checking for this type of regulation. Now the conversation got real interesting because the sponsor of both of the bills, Alderman Orion, was like, "Look, y'all, let's get these bills out of committee. These bills have been getting worked on for like 5 years. Do the current bills, do they need more tweaks? Hell yeah, they need some changes. But let's make those changes on the floor with the full board of aldermen. Let's push this mug along. Let's stop talking about it and let's get something on the books." Alderwoman Spencer was like, nope. She offered something like 15 amendments or proposed changes to the legislation. And she said, based off the public's feedback, her changes were based off of the public's feedback concerning the regulatory processes, holding Airbnb operators accountable, among some other things. Committee members, they weren't even trying to vote on her proposed changes. Alderman Browning was like, yo, you sent this to us at 12 something this morning. The meeting start at 9 a.m. Come on, sis. You know that ain't right. That ain't enough time for us to review all of these proposed changes. Plus, it don't give us time to holler at the people like the buildings division, the city councilor's office, and even the police department to make sure that your proposed changes are enforceable, they can actually enforce, and that they legal, right? At a bare minimum. He was like, let's not rush this. Alderwoman Spencer put her first proposed change up for a vote, and it was crickets, y'all. And I ain't never seen no issue like this before. Even Alderwoman Spencer was looking like, what the hell are y'all doing? The OG Alderman Vollmer, who ain't on the committee, but he was just listening to the meeting, he had this to say about it.
I don't want to seem like an old man here, but I've been through this many more times than all of you. And for you to not even be willing to listen to amendments that are here, this is what committees are for. To get the best product you can bring to the full board. Because once it gets to the full board, you talk about being rushed, putting amendments on the floor, putting things before them. If you're worried about a rush process, you are going to enter into the most rushed of amendment processes by doing it on the full board floor. It's time to step up to your jobs and listen. You are being paid very good salaries these days. I've done this job for a third of what you're being paid and worked very, very hard and very, very long to stay where I'm at. This is something you must do. You must listen. You must do things in a proper fashion.
Y'all heard it. Now clearly I ain't an OG to this, but I've seen folks make their tweaks to bills on the floor during these full board of alderman meetings, and it's happened. But we talking 1, 2, or 3 changes. We ain't talking like 15 changes. The committee, they listened to Alderwoman Spencer's proposed changes, and after she talked through them, they were like, yeah, that's cute, and we gonna consider them on the floor. They ended up passing Orion's bills out of the committee without considering Alderwoman Spencer's amendments. When the bill's up for perfection, which will be at their full board of alderman meeting, their next full board of alderman meeting, y'all, it'll be an interesting discussion. Okay, that's for sure. To be continued. So the next highlight we're going to get into. At last week's Budget and Public Committees meeting, there was a presentation by Ness Sandoval, professor of demography and sociology at SLU. He presented research on the demographic trends for the city of St. Louis using information from multiple sources, including census data. There were hella numbers presented, but the one number he wanted the committee to remember was 75. Since 2019, the city of St. Louis has lost 75 families per month. Of those 75 families, 63 are Black and 12 are white. Damn. I found another part of his presentation interesting as well, looking at the city as really 4 different cities. Listen to how he breaks this down.
But when we start to look at census tract data, we start to see many different cities that are emerging. And so this one appears about 15 times in different models. And there's a city that's losing population. There's a city that's relatively stable. And from the previous studies show that there's tremendous affluence and advantages and resources in those areas. And that's the red area. And then there's the dark blue part of the city that has tremendous economic investment. We go walk, we see lots of buildings, lots of very expensive apartments and condos being built, lots of activity here. But then there's this part of the city that's unknown. And what the statistical models are showing us is that there's no sense of reliability of the different variables that are related to there that I'm going to show here in a few minutes, that we're starting to see in some of these areas that are in this area, population loss. That's significant. That's not random. And so that's why I call it unknown, because in many ways, I think we kind of understand if the city loses population, we kind of know where it's coming from in the north part of the city. But if the city starts losing population in this tan area here, then the losses can be great. If the Black families who live in this part of the city and the white families who live here start to leave at a very large level, this is going to be big trouble for the city.
Now, obviously, your analysis and your findings are only as accurate as your data, right? And there's always a possibility of underreporting. And a couple of the alder people really spoke to this with the professor's data, especially when we're talking about using census data, since we know Black people don't fill out the census for a whole other reasons. That's a whole other topic and a whole other show, y'all. And I don't doubt that these numbers for Black residents, maybe they should be a little higher, but still we have a lot of blocks in our communities that's just land, vacant property, and maybe 1 or 2 houses that are where people live on the block. That's it. And that's real. The 75 families leaving every month and the different cities in our city, in one city. Yeah. This can't continue for our city to thrive. And this impacts everybody. It impacts all of us. Our elected leaders, they got a lot of work to do. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about that. So they better roll up their sleeves and get to it. Our next highlight. So there were quite a few bills introduced during Friday's Board of Alderman meeting, but these are the ones that I'm peeping and checking for. All of them were introduced by Alderwoman Saunier. So Board Bill 126 basically would establish a Bill of Rights, so to speak, for the unhoused. And I've seen some stuff already, some articles. Part of that bill, yeah, it looks at decriminalizing, right, or making it legal for people to use the bathroom outside. So I know, shock value. So that's a bill that was introduced on Friday. Also, Board Bills 127 and 128 related to changing a zoning code regarding some type of special residential use zoning. So it would be interesting to see what that entails. So we'll be peeping those to be continued on that. And then our final highlight, the Rams settlement survey and update. So y'all, the city of St. Louis, they have extended the deadline for folks to be able to fill out the survey. So it was on Friday, October 13th. Now you have until the following Friday, October 20th, to complete the survey. Something else, they saying they about to be going door to door to get folks to weigh in on how they feel the RAM settlement coin should be spent. And they are going to focus on the wards and the areas that they ain't heard from. So I'm just telling y'all, heads up, somebody come knocking at your door. Hey, I told you, try to give you the heads up. So if you haven't done so, please get on the portal, fill out the survey, provide ideas. Also, if you have some ideas you want to share on how the coin should be spent, because this money is there, y'all. It's accruing interest every day, and it's going to have to be spent. So make sure your voice is heard, your ideas are included in this process, because this is happening, y'all. This is happening. And then we are rounding out with our announcements. I know, like we church, you know, them church announcements. So please, on Friday, October 13th, from 5 to 8 p.m., please roll through if you can to the Hop Shop. We are having a happy hour to really our final push for our survey, because we shutting our survey down next Monday, y'all, the 16th. So this is our final push. Come out, drink specials on deck. Complete the survey. If you have friends that you know ain't completed the survey, tell them to come through. Like I said, drink specials on deck. We'll have some tunes. We'll have 2 DJs, one of which is Big Esco. Shout out to him. And tell a friend. Kick off your weekend with a great happy hour. Support our campaign, and also learn about how to get involved and engage in our efforts. It should be a really good time. Again, shout out to the St. Louis Hop Shop for their support. So y'all, that's it for this week. Remember, I'm just a messenger, and it's going to take all of us to address what we talked about this week. The change, it starts with us, and that change starts with us just simply, or y'all just simply clicking the share button to share this show. And let's get into it. Stay shining, and until next week, y'all.